Hey, Lee Robinson here from the former Keep It Simple Archery. I was just going to show you how I refinish a bow, or how I finish a bow. So this is a old Scentman competition that we got that I picked up, and the finish on it was a bit rough because it was made like in 1995. So I sanded it down, and y'all know how to sand stuff down, hopefully. If you don't know how to sand something down, don't do this. But once you get the surface prepped, I use a finish called the Massey epoxy finish. That's M-A-S-S-E-Y epoxy finish. But what it is, it's a homemade epoxy finish that is super available. All you have to do is pick up some Devcon 2-ton epoxy. That's D-E-V-C-O-N 2-ton epoxy. Empty the tubes. If you got the like the 25 mil tube container, squirt both sides into a mason jar, and then add about 100 milliliters of acetone. When you do that, you just swirl the jar around until the epoxy has completely dissolved. This will prevent the epoxy from setting up for about 4 to 5 days, maybe even longer, but the finish is certainly usable for about 4 or 5 days. Then you get your wood completely cleaned up. I use like 100 grit sandpaper, 150 grit sandpaper, and then you can use 220 if you want to, but after that I usually just use steel wool. After I steel wool it, I wipe the bow down with, let that completely evaporate to get any lint and dust and steel wool particles off of the bow. Then I put one coat on the bow. Actually, I'll put any writing back on the bow that may need to be replaced. And then once that is done, let that writing dry for a full 24 hours, because the acetone will wipe it off very quickly. And the first time you wipe over that writing, go very quickly. Don't go over it a second time. Let that epoxy dry for 6 hours. Now I'm fixing to do the second coat, and these are just cotton patches. I've got about 3 or 4 of them in my hand, and I just put that on the these cotton patches are gun cleaning patches that you can buy. I use them, and I just dip it until it's really wet with the acetone and epoxy mixture. I'll turn it and make sure my patch is really wet, trying not to spill any on the floor, of course, because this is epoxy. And then I like to do the sight window first. So I get down in there and I wipe it a couple of times, and then I go down the edge of the bow first, because that's where the wood is. So I want the most amount of finish on that wood because it kind of soaks in. Okay, I'll also do the tips, get in the string grooves. And because the epoxy gets sticky when the acetone evaporates, you really can't go down it multiple times after that initial wipe. So I'm not going to touch the sides anymore. Now I'll go down the back, and then I'll go quickly over the writing. Now when you don't have to go over the writing real quick once you get a few coats, but you can see that pulled off some of that writing onto the patch. Once you have a few coats on it, that won't happen. This is just my second coat, so I'm kind of quick on it. Let me go ahead and get a dab more. And I'll need to wipe that countertop with some acetone, or actually I need to, I'll clean up anything that I got on the floor or the countertop with either acetone or brake cleaner. But you have to be careful with brake cleaner on your furniture, floor, and whatnot. Okay, so here goes the writing area. I got the serial number information on there. Now, set this up and let it dry for a full 6 hours, and then you can do another coat. Now, between every third or fourth coat, you might want to steel wool it. Before you steel wool it, let it dry for probably 10 hours, okay? It'll be dry enough to recoat in 6 hours, but don't steel wool it unless you let it dry for at least 8 hours, preferably 10. All right, and then after you have maybe 3 or 4 coats on it, you don't have to worry about the writing anymore. It'll be protected with enough epoxy. Y'all take care. Have a blessed day.